Our next question goes to Congressman Cramer first. Immigration policy continues to be a big issue, especially with reports of a caravan of refugees from Central America coming toward our border. What do you think should be in a policy for immigration?
Well, immigration is a very broad statement, a very broad policy arena that deals with both illegal and illegal immigration. And we have problems on both sides of it. I thought the president was very magnanimous when he presented his 4 pillars that dealt with eliminating chain migration, when he talked about replacing the lottery system with a merit-based system. He was very generous, I thought, in providing a path to citizenship for 1.8 million DACA immigrants. And then I just think that we try to do things big and comprehensive, and there's always something over here that the people over here don't like, and there's always something over here that the people over here don't like. And I think this president has provided a pretty good blueprint for dealing at least with a good part of it. But at the end of the day, we are a sovereign nation with rule of law, the most generous nation in the world when it comes to legal immigrants, and we ought to have something to say about who comes into our country. And I think a merit-based system would be a good place to start.
Senator Heitkamp.
In 2013, we passed comprehensive immigration reform with a broad bipartisan majority. 68, 69 senators voted for it. Senator Hoeven and I both supporting it. We were unable to get anything done over in the House of Representatives because that would have provided a long-term path to citizenship. Not acceptable to the House of Representatives, so this issue in a big way lingers. So the president did present 4 pillars, and guess who voted for it? I did. Guess who didn't vote for it? Half the Republican caucus in the Senate, because they couldn't agree. And so it's time for leadership, and it's time for bipartisan leadership. It's time to reignite this. But the one thing we know, we cannot leave our borders unprotected. The rule of law has to be imposed. We have to make sure if there's 4,000 today, there's going to be 1 million tomorrow. And we have to stand at the border and say our sovereignty depends on border security and border protection.
Congressman Cramer, 30-second rebuttal.
Well, I agree with that rhetoric, but we have to build that wall and then secure the other parts of the border with vessels, with aircraft, with technology, with the National Guard at the border personnel as well. So that was, by the way, the 4th pillar of the president's 4 pillars. So yeah, we need to protect our sovereignty, but we also have to eliminate this crazy notion that we're going to fund sanctuary cities and create a magnet for illegal immigration to come to the United States. And I've opposed that. That's an area where Senator Heitkamp and I disagree. She's voted for funding sanctuary cities. I've voted against funding sanctuary cities.
And Senator Heitkamp.
I voted 4 times to build a wall. Not a wall that goes all the way across. No one even believes that that's possible. But to make sure that we have the kind of technology and security that we need, the smart way, doing it the right way. But where we are right now with all of this is we're at a political impasse because people refuse to work across the aisle. That's not my history. I have a strong history on border security. I have a strong history on going across the, working across the aisle. And we will continue to make our border security an absolute priority in the United States Senate.
The next question goes to Senator Heitkamp first. The state of North Dakota is currently one of 20 states involved in a lawsuit that would dismantle the Affordable Care Act. It seems, depending on who you listen to, that the number of North Dakotans insured with pre-existing conditions covered by the ACA is either around 300,000 or some number significantly lower. And the Medicaid program could be impacted as well. Where do both of you stand on this lawsuit and how it might impact North Dakotans?
I think the lawsuit, like 4 votes to repeal the Affordable Care Act without a replacement plan, is irresponsible. And anyone who tells you that that somehow will protect the federal protections that prohibit you or an insurance company from taking away your insurance, they're wrong. That is clearly wrong. That's where the protection is. It's in the Affordable Care Act. When the Affordable Care Act is challenged and repealed, those protections go away. When this lawsuit is being defended by the administration on only one ground, that the patient protection provision is unconstitutional. That's the position of the administration in court. That's the position of the plaintiffs who have filed this lawsuit. This lawsuit clearly affects patient protections, including our pre-existing conditions. We know better. We know that we need to fix the healthcare system without throwing people off their health insurance.
Congressman Kramer.
Well, first of all, she's right about one thing. We know better here in North Dakota, which is why the plans I've supported take the money, send it to the states, and put the states in charge. I mean, John Gottfried, our insurance commissioner, is in here today. If you want to ask him about what's the better plan, talk to him. He could tell you. In fact, our governor supports the Republican plan, our lieutenant governor, our attorney general, the insurance commissioner, the congressman, the other senator. I'm pretty sure Heidi Heitkamp's not the smartest person out of that whole group and the only one that's right. With that said,
Senator Heitkamp, you have a chance to rebut.
Wait a minute. That counts against my time?
Well, you go, Kevin,
not.
go ahead.
Okay.
Finish your
It does
thought.
not.
My point is that to test the constitutionality of a law is the responsible thing to do. That's what's being done here. We should all want to make sure that the law is constitutional, but the number that you talked about, here's the real number. 8% of North Dakotans, the same number of people that don't have insurance today were the same number that didn't have it before Obamacare. But 8% of the people are on the individual market, and 24% of them have pre-existing conditions. And if you do the math, that comes out to far less than 300,000, more like 15,000.
Let's not fool ourselves. Let's just not fool ourselves. When you vote 5 times to repeal the Affordable Care Act, where that patient protection exists, you have voted to eliminate that patient protection. When you support a lawsuit where the sole purpose is to eliminate the protection for pre-existing conditions, you don't support protections for pre-existing conditions. And so make no mistake about it, there's no double talk. Hey, I hear the double talk's over there.
So the Republican bills that I've supported do guarantee emphatically, without any ambiguity whatsoever, people with pre-existing conditions. And by the way, the law back in the 1970s ensured that people on group plans were protected. And the vast majority of people on group plans with insurance in North Dakota have group plans, or they're on some government program that takes us down to a very, very small number. So we need to deal with the facts. And then, yes, states can, in fact, provide the coverage for people with pre-existing conditions under the Republican health care plans that I support and Senator Heitkamp has opposed.
Yeah, can I just say something? He just mentioned all of the politicians, Republican politicians, who are supporting these plans. Guess who didn't? The North Dakota Hospital Association, the Physicians Association, all of the patient protections, AARP. There was not one group in North Dakota other than the Republican Party and the Republican Party officials who supported any of those plans for replacement.
Those officials who were elected by large margins by the people of North Dakota, not the associations, the people of North Dakota. And when you work for lobbyists instead of the patients, the people, the small businesses that hire people, that's when you start thinking groupthink like Chuck Schumer instead of like how people think, like the people I'm looking at out here.
Well, I mean, can I just have
one more bite at the apple.
One more bite at the apple. You're honestly saying that a governor and a congressman and a senator know more about providing health care than the Hospital Association and the Medical Association and the AARP who protects patients? That is ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous. It's a partisan bill that's being promoted to promote a partisan reason, and you're taking away some of the critical health care that is essential for so many of North Dakotans, and that is a clear difference, Kevin, between you and me.
And who's going to provide health insurance to my 30-some-year-old niece and her husband? He has a pre-existing conditions. They can't afford the $1,500 a month premiums plus the $10,000 copay. Yeah. He can't even afford to buy his insulin. They have insurance they can't afford, and they darn sure can't afford to use it, and they can't afford to get sick.
Well, wait.
That's as a result of Obamacare.
Kevin, wait. Wait until it's repealed by this lawsuit and the protection that says you can't charge people more if they have a pre-existing condition kicks in. Because if they can't afford it today, they sure as heck are not going to be able to afford it tomorrow.
No, they actually could afford it before Obamacare made it impossible to afford it. He made it impossible to pay for, less choice, higher premium. The promise by President Obama was people's rates would go down, families down $2,500 a year. They went up $4,000 a year. That's not affordable. That's not access. That's checking the box and saying, I've got coverage I can't afford to use. There's got to be a better way than that.
20,000 people get their health insurance today. My husband's a family physician. He'll tell you at least 12 of his patients are alive today only because they got the screenings that were mandated by the Affordable Care Act. Let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. My history is trying to fix the Affordable Care Act. His history is trying to repeal it without a replacement. His history is trying to make it a political issue, which he's doing right now. My issue is rolling up my sleeves, working in a bipartisan way, doing everything that I can to make sure people have affordable health insurance. And I will continue to fight with my dying breath to make sure that pre-existing conditions are covered for our American and our North Dakota families.
As will I, as have I, as has every bill that I voted for to replace Obamacare. In fact, it provided more money and more flexibility to the states to do exactly what she said.
But Kevin, you have not explained why you voted 5 times to repeal it with no replacement. Never mind that bill, because
I just did. Because the rates are skyrocketing, choice is diminishing.
But admit that when you voted to repeal it without a replacement, what happened? You took away the protections on pre-existing conditions.
No, because the protections on pre-existing conditions have been there since the 1970s. And North Dakota, under Ed Schaefer, under Governor Ed Schaefer, had a plan to cover people in North Dakota. I trust the governors of North Dakota and our legislature way more than I trust CMS.
You trust the legislature more than the Hospital Association. I'm just telling you, go out and fact check it. It's been fact checked over and over again. Go out and read the lawsuit, which I read. Go out and read the lawsuit. The lawsuit that was filed, ladies and gentlemen, takes away everything. It takes away keeping your kids on their insurance. It takes away the lifetime caps. It takes away everything. It wipes out the Affordable Care Act. And so let's not double talk this. And if you're the one who said that people with pre-existing conditions would game the system. We have those words coming out of your mouth. That's not what this is about. This is about moms and dads trying to get critical health care for their kids. It's about grandpas and grandmas worrying about whether their kids will have an opportunity to get good quality health care. It's about keeping our rural hospitals open. This is such an important discussion. And let's admit, and I've said it over and over again, the Affordable Care Act has good parts and it has bad parts. I've been working to fix the bad. You've been trying to eliminate it for purely partisan reasons because it's a great soundbite within a Republican administration, and we cannot play politics with our health care.
Well, let me tell you something.
This will be one more.
Sure. I spent most of my time trying to repeal it under the name Obama, a Democratic president, because none of the promises he made were kept by it because they couldn't be. It makes no sense whatsoever. And our plan that I've voted for a couple of times and will go to work on as soon as we get back, especially if I win this race, will be to do exactly the things that you talked about in the goals through a way that gives the authority and the flexibility to states who can do it better in conjunction with their hospitals and doctors.
Well, I'm going to move on now to another
Why would you want to do that?
non-controversial.